So how's lunch? It's pretty good? All right. At this time, I am going to bring to you our chairman of the National Labor Roundtable, who's from the Machinists Union, Hassan Solomon, to do the welcome as we receive him.
Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. I said, good afternoon, brothers and sisters. Is labor in the house? I said, is labor in the house? Let's give a round of applause for our mistress of ceremony from UAW, Lysandra White, doing an excellent job. As stated, I'm the chair of the National Labor Roundtable, and it's just not me, it's an organization of unions from across the country. And I would like to recognize some of those unions who are in the house today. And when I name your union, would you please remain standing? The American Federation of Teachers. The National Education Association. The American Federation of Government Employees. The Painters International Union. International Longshoremen. LIUNA, Laborers International. The United Food and Commercial Workers. The Service Employees International Union. The AFL-CIO. The Communication Workers of America. The National Federation, the National Football League Players Association, NFLPA. And the United Auto Workers Union. These unions represent the National Labor Roundtable. Give them a round of applause. Oh, my own union, the Machinists Union. I'm sorry, kid. Sorry, Sharon. That's my sister from Atlanta. The Machinists Union, the fighting machinists. Whew, it's been a long week. Now, if you did not hear your union, it's because you didn't pay dues to the Labor Roundtable this year. Now, I don't want to put nobody out there. So that is a call from the chair to urge your international to pay their dues so they can be a participant of the National Labor Roundtable. And see Gilda here up front to get your dues in, because we do not like dues objectors and free riders. Anybody else want to call out a union? We as trade unionists know that politics are not Democrat or Republican. It's not left or right. Politics for trade unions is top and bottom. And those at the top are going to do whatever they can to stay on top, and unfortunately in this country keep workers at the bottom. So that's why we as trade unionists understand the importance of being engaged in the political process. We understand that the economy is the game, and policy are the rules to that game. And that legislative policy is written on Capitol Hill. That legislative policy is written in state houses all over the country by the people that we elect. And what we as trade unionists want to do is elect those to state houses and Congress that are going to write that policy that benefits workers. So we're proud to stand here at NBCSL with our leader, Gilda Cobb, and we're not going anywhere, and we're going to make sure that organized labor's voice is always heard. Because if you're not at the table, you're on the menu, brothers and sisters. Thank you for your time and for your support.
At this particular time, we will bring up Ms. Julie Green from the National AFL-CIO to do a greeting.
Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. I want to start by saying thank you to our chair, Hassan Solomon, and also acknowledging the president of NBCSL, Representative Gilda Cobbs-Hunter. And I bring you, yes, please. I bring you greetings on behalf of our AFL-CIO officers, President Richard Trumka, Secretary Treasurer Liz Schuler, and Executive Vice President Tafari Gabre. And my message is very simple today. It is one of thanks. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your bravery, and thank you for standing with labor. We support candidates all over the country, and we have been in some tough battles. But time after time, it's you, our Black legislators on the state legislative level, who have remained in lockstep with labor every step of the way. And I want you to know it's not only appreciated, it is recognized at the highest levels of the National AFL-CIO. We have been guilty in the past of focusing on the top of the ticket, and we had to learn the hard way that where it all starts and where the game is really is on the legislative level. And so we have had to make some course corrections in how we've approached our program. But whether it is fighting for voting rights, civil rights, right to work, or equal pay, you have been there with us. And I just want to bring you a simple message and let you know we will be there with you. So thank you very much and enjoy lunch today.
At this particular time, I have the honor and privilege of bringing up Mr. Tony Hill, former Florida State Senator, for the introduction of our keynote speaker.
Hello, y'all. No. And welcome to Florida. I'm pretty sure you've had several welcomes, so we want to welcome you back. Madam President, we want to welcome you home. A graduate of Florida A&M University, and so we're excited about you being back in the Sunshine State, even though you moved up 2 states over in South Carolina, but we want to welcome you back with the Rattlers. How many Rattlers we got in the house? All right. The Rattlers kind of quiet because a few weeks ago they got bumped on the head again, but we won't get into that. It's another school down the street. Yes, ma'am. Okay. All right. All right. You're going to really love the speaker then, Madam President. You're going to really love the speaker today. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a singular honor to introduce the speaker for the hour, a gentleman that moves across the breadth and length of this state as a giant for working families, sisters and brothers. Frederick C. Angren is the president of the Florida Education Association, affectionately known as FEA. And I'm going to shorten the Frederick just to go to Fed, since we are frat brothers. I heard the AKAs were in the house this morning. Well, I want to let you know that you got a fraternity that's in the house that's going to speak today. And then on tonight, we get a double honor because I understand the Lifetime Achievement Award, Madam President, is a fraternity brother too, Fred Gray. President Ingrid represents over 140,000 members of the FEA. He also represents pre-K to 12 teachers, higher education faculty members at our university, also staff professionals that help us move the schools from the time the students reach the school campus to the time they leave. He also represents those who are in higher education at those institutions who are going to be teachers, retired educators. Fred grew up in the inner city of Miami and attended public schools here down the road in Miami, Florida. Pursuing his love of music, he attended Bethune-Cookman University and on a scholarship and became the first member of his family to earn a post-secondary degree in music education. He would go on to be a music teacher and a band director in Miami-Dade Public Schools for 10 years. Fred is also an accomplished musician in his own right and performs throughout the state and nationally as a commercial artist. In 2006, he was named the Francisco R. Walker Miami-Dade County Teacher of the Year. He was also a finalist for the State of Florida Teacher of the Year Award in 2006. In May of 2013, he was elected president of what we call UTD, United Teachers of Dade, which represents employees of the fourth largest school district in the nation. He has held the post until 2015, when he was elected vice president of the Florida Education Association. Later on, he won the election to be their president. Our speaker of the hour is the first African American that I know of since being involved in state politics that heads an association in the state of Florida, a trade association in the state of Florida. Along with his leadership team, Fred envisioned a new era for Florida Education Association with members united to achieve their goals for public education. We are marching forward together as one union, ready to take on those who have used their power to drain our public schools, not only of desperate needed funding, but on the joy of learning. We will be fearless as we stand against those who would harm public education, but we will also reach out across the political line to build bridges. But we will also enlist those new allies as we work to improve learning conditions for our students and working conditions for educators. Frederick is nationally, out of the state, ranks 44 per pupil students, 45th in the nation for teachers' pay, and 47th in pay for education of staff professionals of higher education, faculty, and adjunct professors. Continue to experience the stagnant salaries. Too many Floridians are struggling with the student debt, and our schools are facing an unprecedented teacher shortage. It's time for a state to do better. Ladies and gentlemen, in May of 2013, the Miami Herald Legacy magazine named Fred Ingram as one of South Florida's 50 most powerful African-American business leaders. He is also the recipient of the prestigious JM Family African-American Achievement Award. Now, note, as I told you earlier, he's married to Miss Yvette Ingram, and they have 3 children, all who attend public schools. As I said earlier, he's a Wildcat, and he's here today to speak to us, to speak to our hearts about public education. And for those brothers that are a member of Omega Psi Phi fraternity, I know we got Joe Armstrong here, we have Kevin Smyrie, and also Brother Marshall. We want, after the speaker has spoken, to come up and take some pictures with him. And ladies and gentlemen, will you put your hands together as I introduce to some and present to others, Frederick Ingram, President of Florida Education Association.
If you want a thing bad enough to fight for it, to work every day and night for it, to lose your time and peace and sleep for it, and if all that you dream and scheme is about it, and life seems useless and worthless without it, and if you simply sweat for it and fret for it and plan for it and lose terror of the opposition for it, and if you simply go after that thing that you want with all of your capacity, strength and sagacity, faith, hope and confidence, and stern pertinacity, if neither cold poverty, famine, shall go, sickness or pain or body and brain can keep you away from the thing that you want, if dogged and green you besiege and beset it with the help of only God, you can get it. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Is labor in the house? Oh, man, we got a bunch of folks in here. So first, let me digress and say this. When the state of Florida was in need of a hero for children, schools, and labor, the people called on a longshoreman, a black man, a scholar, a statesman. The Senator Tony Hill deserves an honor of applause just for being here today. Thank you, sir. And I want to take just 2 points of personal privilege. Yesterday, when I came down from Tallahassee, I saw a tragic accident that was going on in Miramar, Florida yesterday. A UPS driver, a union member. Let me say that again. A union member, a Teamster, a young father lost his life doing his job. Frank Ordonez, young man lost his life on the job. And also, we laid to rest one of the fathers of Miami and Garth Reeves today. If you could, with me, just bow your heads and take a moment of silence for those two honorees, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I'm here to talk a little bit about public education, a lot about labor, and a lot about how we work together and move forward. So first of all, I want to extend thank you to all the black legislators in here, because you all are the firewall. You all help us to do what is necessary for people, certain people in certain zip codes who wear tan, who come from a rich background, and do certain things, and sometimes things have not always looked up for the people who you represent. And so I want to just extend a hand of friendship and a hand of thank you to let you know, through civil rights, through movements that we've seen in this country, labor has and always will be with each and every one of you. So let me just say that loud and openly, especially as a part of the AFT and the NEA. I want to give you a big round of applause for what you've done. Let's give all of our black legislators here a big hand. So as we talk about public education, I want you to race back to when you were in high school, all right? Some of us got to race a little bit longer than others, all right? But I want you to think about a day that you had in middle school or high school. And I remember walking into my high school in Miami-Jackson High School, you know, and what I wanted to be, Tony, was a rapper, right? And so I remember going into Miss Williams' first class, right? I said, Miss Williams, I just came from the middle school down the street. And I got these shoes, but there's a song that just came out. And I got the same shoes that the song has. The song says, my Adidas, walking on 2 Feet Street, funky fresh, and yes, Adidas on my feet. I did not win them, no shoestrings in them. I bought them off the alley with my black feet in them. Now, that's what I did. So I only say that to say to you, sometimes we get caught up because we're degreed and we're elected and we get in the bourgeois type. And then we get into this narrative that something's wrong with our schools, but we forget about who you were when you were in school. Because every day wasn't a good day when you were in school. And some of us were not the best students. And some of us didn't A our way. Some of us C'd our way through school. Some of us needed band. And some of us needed art. And some of us needed dance. And some of us needed that coach to put us in the corner and tell us, listen, son, you can be more than what you see. And so let me take you and shape you and mold you. And some of us forget about the black excellence in which we come from. So let me just give this a historical perspective for you. This is the year 2019. In fact, the last month of 2019. If you hearken back and race back through history, they will tell you that the first people who looked like us came here in 1619, some 400 years ago this year. They will tell you that slaves came across the transatlantic slave trade. I will tell you that there was not a slave on that boat I will tell you that there were doctors and lawyers and engineers and politicians and teachers and hunters and mothers and fathers who came in the hulls and the bows of these boats that were brought here. And so you need to understand that we stand on the shoulders of giants. We are our ancestors' wildest dreams. They never thought that we will be sitting here contemplating how we move a black agenda, how we move a country's agenda in a way that will help generations to come. But they knew this. They knew through education. They knew through reading. When they were told they couldn't read, when it was against the law to teach somebody that looked like me A, B, C, D, when it was against the law for them to share books, when it was against the law for them to understand what was going on in the church or what was going on in City Hall or what was going on in the State House. It was against the law. And so they relegated us to stupid and ignorant, and you couldn't learn. And that manifested itself into separate and equal. And that manifested itself into a bell curve, a silly bell curve. They can't learn a certain thing. And so we race through 1954 and we bring in the history that we can all remember. Let me tell you what 1954 represents. It represents labor and civil rights and students and black folks all across this country coming together saying we can do better, that we deserve better. And it's been arm in arm since then. Because the NEA and the AFT, along with UAW and UFT and Teamsters and all these other unions that we named earlier, have helped in that civil rights movement. And we continue to do so each and every day. And so let me submit to you that we've got to renew our faith. Not only renew our faith in God, and as a teacher, it has become illegal for me to talk about God in my classroom. But it has not become illegal for me to pray every day for my students. And so I pray, and I have faith in God that we will move forward. But I also have faith in our children. There are those who label our children as failures. Every day in the state of Florida, we have an accountability system that says we have an A school or a B school or a C school or a D school or an F school. And year after year for 2 decades, you can find the lion's share of D and F schools in black and brown communities. Our schools are not D and F schools. That is some trick that they play on us each and every day. Look at our HBCUs. Look at you. How many people in this room went to a public school? If you went to a D school, fine. If you went to an F school, fine. Yes, we can do better. No, public education is not perfect. Teachers are not perfect. But we are called to a perfect mission, and that is to take care of our children. So do not be hoodwinked and bamboozled into some accountability when somebody is not talking to you about responsibility. Because the responsibility of our children is to invest in our future. It is to give a proper investment. Educating kids costs money. Educating kids costs money. Private schools know it. Voucher schools know it. Charter schools know it, which is why they charge a certain amount of money. So why are you trying to drain funds out of the public coffers? It's a simple argument. It's a simple argument. And so as you go back to your state houses in your respective states, I just want you to hold true to what we have all held true, to family. This is about family. The House of Labor is your family. The House of Labor is with you 100%. If we lead every single sentence as it relates to kids with student success, we will always find our way home. We will always find our way home. If you believe that somebody has the panacea for how to teach our kids, you're wrong. I'm not telling you that public education is a panacea, and I said public education is not perfect, but charter schools are not perfect, and voucher schools are not perfect, and corporatiers are not perfect. In fact, there are those who want to put a price tag on our children. They want to put a price tag on our children because we have voucher programs all over this country. Voucher programs are sending our kids to some of the worst schools that we can imagine in this country. Some of the schools in the state of Florida that receive voucher money, they do not have a certified teacher. In fact, not only don't they have a certified teacher, they don't take a test as a benchmark like regular schools. You want an accountability system? All we're saying is give it to everybody. Just make the playing field fair. I listened to Jesse Jackson years ago, and he made the best anecdote for public education that I had ever heard. He says, you want to know why our kids do so well in sports? Our kids do well in sports because the playing field is equal. Both sides have the same equipment. There is an impartial referee. The stakeholders all have a stake in the game, from the ticket taker to the person that's watching on the fourth level. They all want something, and they all want to achieve. If you give our kids everything that you give the kids down the street, our kids will kick their butt every single day of the week. And so some people will relegate this to a fight against the union and the district and folks who want this and folks who want that. There's no fight here. In fact, it's antithetical to put kids and fight in the same sentence. It's antithetical to think that we go to school and go to work every day to fail a child. That doesn't happen. I'm a 10-year high school band director, so that's my street cred as an educator. If you know anything about high school band directors, we give our blood, sweat, and tears to kids every single day. Every Friday, you're in somebody else's stadium. Every Saturday, you're in a parade, and you take kids every month all across this country. And I did that for kids in the inner city, kids who would not have been taken across the street. We took them all over the country. In that same school, I watched my band go from 275-piece award-winning band to 105 students through no fault of my own, because we decided to double dose them, because we decided to give them the high-stakes test, because we decided since they were level 1 when they came to us, then we were going to try to fix them in another way. Give them the tools that they needed without giving them what they wanted to sit their butt in the seat. You got to give our kids something to sit in the seat for. Many of our kids aren't coming to school because they understand the value of science. We still have first-generation African-American students that are going to college. We still have first-generation. Let me say it one more time. That's important. Because if I was talking to another group, they might be on their 4th or 5th or 6th generation college student going to college. That makes a difference. I was a first-generation college student coming from Miami. My mother loved me like any other mother loved her son. She said, hey, sweetheart, listen, I want you to go to college. I just don't know what that's about. That was an honest answer. My mother's a bus driver, city bus driver for 30 years, TWU 291. She said, I want you to go to college if that's what you want to do. I just don't know how to get you there. And they tells me it costs a lot of money. She said tells, T-E-L-L-S. Tells me it costs a lot of money. So how do we do that? And I ended up going to a school that I love, an HBCU, and by the way, let me just digress and talk about our HBCUs. The same people that are talking about charter schools and voucher schools are killing our HBCUs every day. Florida A&M University, Bethune-Cookman University, Florida Memorial University, and Edward Waters College. We have a problem of epic proportions because we have a teacher shortage here in the state of Florida. But let me tell you how deep that teacher shortage goes. There are high school kids that are making a conscious decision not to become teachers. How do we know that? Because the schools of education around this state are at an all-time low. The colleges of education are starting to close their doors. Edward Waters College in Jacksonville, Tony, has closed their doors on the School of Education. That is shameful. Shameful when we know what the stats say. The stats say that HBCUs produce 50% of all black teachers in the country. And they're closing their doors. This is a generational problem that is going to haunt us for our grandchildren and their grandchildren. If we don't stop this, we're killing the dream. When those kids are wanting to teach their brothers and their sisters in their rooms, and then they go through this regimented system that's been set up not to put any fun into school at all. Fun is not a dirty word. School should be fun. You know what I remember from school? Pep rallies. I remember girls. I remember after school doing some foolishness. And somewhere along the line, I learned to read. Somewhere along the line, I learned math and science. You know what students talk about now? How many of your classmates failed the test? They come back to class reunions and they say, oh, you know what? They're not here because, remember, they didn't pass the FCAT, or they didn't pass the FSA, or they graduated from charter school down the street, or from voucher school down the street. That's why they're not here. That's what's happening to our culture. Remember that our culture was set up on the church, on the school, when preachers and teachers could go into any shopping mall or any Winn-Dixie or any Publix or any, and they were looked at as a deity. And people said, oh my God, that's my teacher. Do you remember how happy you were when you saw your teacher in jogging pants and a t-shirt? You didn't think they were human. That's what used to happen in our communities. And now, ask teachers what's happening to them in classrooms today. I haven't mentioned money for teachers one time in 14 minutes. But ask teachers what's happening to them in classrooms, the lack of respect. From students we can deal with, but we can't deal with it from you, Mr. Adult. From you, Mr. State House official, that are construing laws that are restricting what I'm doing. In the state of Florida, we have a commissioner of education who's a lawyer. All due respect to the lawyers in the room. If we had a teacher that was leading the bar association, you might have a problem. You might have a problem. If the Speaker of the House was not a politician, you might have a problem. We've got a little problem here in the state of Florida and in some other states because it's about corporateering, it's about charterizing, it's about privatizing, it's about those folks who are working hand in glove trying to do for our kids each and every day. So I want to end by telling you that we have this campaign in the state of Florida called Fund Our Future, and it's a national campaign. You might have heard of it in your states, but you might have seen some Red for Ed actions from some of my colleagues all over this state. Teachers have had it. They are fed up. And in state after state after state, you're starting to see teachers and bus drivers and cafeteria workers and security monitors march up to their state house and demand better. The state of Florida is no different. And so I want to let you know that as much as I rail on our public school system, it is our last and best hope. It is the cornerstone of democracy. It is still the place where you can go from nothing to something. It is still the place that says, come as you are. We take you. We won't send you back because we got nowhere else to send you. I'm a firm believer that mom and dad sends the best little Johnny to school that they have. If they had a better one, they might send that one. But they don't. They send what they have. And so I'm telling each and every one of you elected officials, yes, we're on your side. Yes, we need you. Yes, labor is going to be there. Yes, we are going to provide opportunities. Yes, we're going to be financial. But we also need the same help from you to stay true to values, to stay true to issues, to stay true to the agenda that kids matter. Kids matter for longshoremen. Kids matter for electrical workers. Kids matter for Teamsters. Kids matter for bus drivers. Kids matter for communications workers. They matter for custodians. You know why? Because not only do we teach kids, we teach the workforce for America. That is what we do. So anybody that knows me knows that I love Muhammad Ali. And, I memorize a lot of Muhammad Ali stuff. One of his great quotes said, if you dream you can whoop me, you better wake up and apologize. Man, I love that. But I also like this other guy who was a heavyweight champion, Mike Tyson. He said, everybody got a plan until you get punched in the face. Labor has been punched in the face. Labor continues to get punched in the face every day. We're going to fight our ass off. That's what we do. That's who we are. That is what we believe, and that is what we exist to do. I want to pay tribute to all of my Florida lawmakers here. And sometimes we don't agree on everything, but I'm letting you know that I stay true to values. I stayed true to public education because public education was good for me. It was good for my mom. It was good for your mama. It's been good to us for a long time. It's not perfect. We got to fix it. We can't get rid of it. We got to fix it. You got to help us fix it. And you got to tell your friends on the other side to stop fixing it because they breaking it every day. Tell them to stop fixing. Hold on, because you just broke something. And every time they whisper in your ear about a new way to teach, tell them to come see me because I know everything there is to know about pedagogy and the art of teaching and whole child education and how brain development from cradle to grave is important. They're not talking about that. They're not talking about that. They're talking about how we can get money from one pot to another. That is not how you fix education. It never will be, and that is putting a price tag on these kids' heads, and our kids should not be for sale. And that is what they're doing each and every day. So as I leave you, I want to leave you on an upbeat note. This is opportunity. This is hope. Look at us. We some bad somebodies. We some bad somebodies. When we come together, and when we stick together, and when we fight together, and when we care together, and when we love each other enough to disagree, but not love each other enough to kill each other, and not let anybody else pick a fight between black legislators and unions, and then hide their hands, and then we go to fighting at each other, that's a problem, and we got to be smarter than that. We have to be smarter than that. It's about you and me pulling ourselves up together. Thank you all so much. I appreciate your efforts. It is a pleasure for you all to come to South Florida, my home, because this is the place that made me. Just like you believe in the place that made you. Some of you are from up north, the Midwest, the West Coast, and you believe in that place. I believe in this place. You've got to go back home with some energy and some vitality and put it into kids in our public schools and care about those teachers and care about those bus drivers. Because guess who becomes the most important person in the world every morning for me? The bus driver. Because I put my precious 13-year-old on that bus at 5 o'clock in the morning. I want them to have a respectful job. I want their bills to be paid. I want them to feel good about themselves, kick the tires. I want them to make sure that they check the seatbelt because you got my lifeblood on your bus. All work has value. All work has value, and one damn job should be enough. Thank you all very much.
Let's give it up one more time for Mr. Ingram for his awesome, awesome speech. It's very important that we stand with the educators. Education is a civil right. And so it's so important that we have a public school system that can educate our children so that they can grow up and be successful individuals. And so once again, we just want to thank you for taking the time out your busy schedule to come speak with us. It's greatly appreciated at our annual labor luncheon. At this particular time, we're heading into closing remarks. We won't be too much longer. Just bear with us for about 10, 15 more minutes. We're going to bring up Senator Ron Rice from the great state of New Jersey. He's also the NBCSL Labor Workforce Committee chairperson, and we just love him. He stands with us. He comes to all our meetings, and so we greatly appreciate his leadership. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Let me just say on behalf of the members of the NBCSL organization and the NBCSL Labor and Workforce Development Policy Committee that it's good to be here. I want to thank Brother Hassan and all of his labor members on the round table for the work that you do. I want to thank all the labor for black folk who are elected throughout the country for the work you do to help us get there. I always talk about how it's important to make sure that people understand that labor represents working people. But we won't have a discussion on the history of labor. But when you really look at some of that history, black folks have always been strongly supportive of labor because labor is how we got our start with getting jobs and benefits, et cetera. And so it's good to be here. I want to thank the members of the Labor Roundtable and members of the Labor Policy Committee, Workforce Development Policy Committee, for the work that we have done and the communication we've had throughout the last year. And there's much more work to be done. And I want you to know that I love labor. My parents come from labor. I'm former labor. And I know that our young people are going to be labor members. And so on behalf of all of us, let me just say once again, thank you very much. And thank you, Brother Hassan, for the work you're doing as the leader. Okay.
At this particular time, we would like to bring up the president of the NBCSL and representative from the great state of South Carolina, Ms. Gilder Cobb Hunter. Thank you, and we appreciate your leadership.
Thank you so much, baby. Thank y'all. Hey, y'all, how's everybody? Listen, just want to reiterate the comments. I just want to reiterate the comments of the chair, Senator Ron Rice, who does a great job in New Jersey on behalf of labor and has been doing a terrific job on the national level on behalf of labor, organized labor, the House of Labor, and all of that. I had to share with our speaker, and I tell you, he was good and hit all the right notes. The point that I want y'all to remember from what he said was the importance of HBCUs. Because while in the state of Florida we have this thing between FAMU and BCC, if you're in North Carolina, it's A&T and Central. Wherever your state is and you've got more than one HBCU, there's a rivalry. Here's what I want us to remember. We are all state legislators for the most part. We serve in these state houses. So we don't need anybody to come up in here and tell us that funding is not adequate. What I want to challenge each of us to do is to do our part, because HBCUs are critical, they are important, and it is up to us to make sure we do what we need to do as alumni. Because when we're going to people asking for money, it is important that we show we've got skin in the game as well. And I told him, I said, not bad for a Wildcat. And I want you to know, Mr. President, that the governor's chief of staff was here the other day, and this rattler shared with the other members of the Florida Legislative Black Caucus who are working so hard on that gap funding, that $25 million for BCC, Edward Waters, Florida Memorial, and we want to make sure that the chief of staff take back to the governor the importance of them funding that, because we may have different alma maters, but we all should be and are committed to HBCUs. Finally, let me just say to you that it is so good to have organized labor back in the fold. We welcome you. We look forward to continuing to talk about how we bring everybody back. Just know that there is not one member of NBCSL who does not support labor, who does not support organized labor. And I want to close my comments by suggesting to you that you have in the leadership of the Labor Workforce Roundtable and the members who represent you on that roundtable, people who are committed to figuring out how we get this done. My commitment to you as president is that we are going to do our level best to figure it out. Thank you for being here. Thank you for what you're doing to help bridge the gap with NBCSL, and I look forward to our continued conversations. Thank you so much.
Thank you, President Cobb Hunter, for those wonderful remarks. Before we have the benediction, I would just like to say it's been an honor and a privilege to serve as your mistress of ceremony today. I like to end each and every one of my assignments with a quote. And this time, I want to say that the labor movement is the principal force that will transform misery and despair into hope and progress. And this is a quote by Martin Luther King Jr. We must continue to build on the foundation that was built for us. And I would like to personally thank each and every one of you for being advocates for human rights, civil rights, women's rights. And as you all know, labor rights are civil rights. And so I just want to say we appreciate everyone at NBCSL, and we appreciate being a part of the Labor Roundtable. We appreciate being a part of this organization, and I look forward to doing other work with you and working with you. And so at this particular time, I would like to bring up Senator Carla May to conduct the benediction for us. Let's give her a hand. Thank you.
Now unto him who is able to keep you from falling and present you faultless before the presence of his glory with exceeding joy. To the only wise God, our Savior, be glory and majesty, dominion and power forever. Amen.
We hope to see each and every one of you in Atlanta next year, and I will hope that you attend the Labor Luncheon next year as well. Thank you, have safe travels, and traveling mercies to everyone as you transition home. Have a good day.